folks keeping the barbarians from the gate.
I got into the labor movement not because I wanted to negotiate wages. I got into the labor movement because I saw it as a vehicle to do massive social change to improve the lots of people.
Let's take these son of a out and give America back to America where we belong. Thank you very much. Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, the Tea Party can go straight to hell.
The old shuffle, but this morning's a shuffle kind of morning.
Yep.
And it started out one of these days already. And here's the way the day started out. I figured, okay, I'm gonna wear boots today. Just slide them on and then change into shoes when I get to the office.
Uh-huh.
I totally forgot shoes.
Forgot the shoes.
I forgot breakfast.
Yep.
I forgot everything. And then, you hit the door and then you get bombarded by like 10 things that you have to do before you get on the air.
Right.
and then doing the DJ shuffle. I think we could probably come up with a song, get a nice beat in the background and the DJ shuffle. You could do something.
Right.
Something to all of a sudden, or maybe have transition music. In this transition brought to you by the Music Exchange Program. Make sure you sponsor an exchange student this next year. There's got to be something that you could do to make it all happen. It's funny, when I was in my previous life, when I would go out and do sports on the radio,
yep,
there was one person that usually it was two schools that had the same broadcast company that did the game, so the owner figured that they would save money by just having both of you do the game, and that way she only had to pay for one crew.
Oh, yeah.
And so this guy had everything sponsored, everything.
This first down brought to you by...
No, it's worse than that. And both sides are coming out to the center of the field, and they're going to have the coin toss. Oh, that reminds me, the coin toss is brought to you by Sam's Coin Shop in downtown Main Street. Oh, the field looks lovely. Oh, that turf is so beautiful. Head on down to Jim's Hardware Store where you can get all the same turf products that they use on this field. And I mean, it was literally everything was sponsored. This guy literally went out, I think, the first day of summer, and knocked on the door. Hey, Jim, hey, why don't you sponsor this? And it's, boy, there's a lot of kids standing on the sidelines. It looks like the participation is great. Do you ever feel like you're standing on the sidelines? Well, Sally's Counseling Service could help you out. Get in the game. It's Sally's Counseling Service.
Players come over and take a swig of Gatorade. That can be picked up at your local health store.
Yes. Uh-huh. Yes.
Oh, man.
Or better than that, why should your kids have to drink Gatorade like everybody else? Why don't you go to the health food clinic and get a healthy alternative with a healthy electrolyte that's non-brominated?
Oh, man.
And the big joke was, after we did this the first year, it's like, oh, great, next year it's like, what's going to be, what is literally going to be sponsored in this next year?
Yeah, forget about the teams and how many seniors are coming back.
Yeah.
You're looking forward to the sponsors list.
Yep, exactly right. Hey, and the team has 10 seniors this year. Make sure you get your senior portraits done at Jimmy's Photographs. If you think about it, if you literally sit down and go through a game in your head, think about all the different things that you could have sponsored without ever even running a commercial.
Absolutely.
And that's the way this guy did it. It was amazing.
Oh, man.
So I guess
he was a very well-paid announcer then.
That's how he got paid, was through sponsorships. He didn't get paid by the station. So that's how that worked, yeah.
Well, I'll show them. If they're not going to pay me, I'll go out and sell sponsorship.
And he did. Definitely. Hey, that's it for the Open. Stick around. We have a full show ahead. We are your Brian Summerfield, Trucker Randy, your defending fathers. Patriot Voice.
I got a Facebook comment during the break, Brian.
Yeah.
The movie was The Italian Job.
That's it.
Yep. So appreciate the listeners participating in the show, chat messaging us on Facebook.
You know how hard it is for me to remember movies because, I see so many movies. I watch like one a year.
So from the last decade, you caught that one.
Yeah, that goes back. So that's like 10 movies ago for me.
Well, we're talking about a story that's in Michigan Capitol Confidential this morning. Jarrett Scorp put it out. Bill would prohibit asset forfeiture in Michigan without criminal conviction. This guy goes back 2009. He's attending a party. He's been invited to an art gallery in Detroit. And because the art gallery didn't get a permit to hold the event for dancing and DJs, the police raided the event, gave everybody tickets inside for illegal occupation, which later the tickets were waived in court. But while they were there, they took this Jack Sutton's 1989 Mustang GT and wouldn't give him back to him until he paid $900 for it. So State Representative Jeff Irwin, Democrat of Ann Arbor, introduces House Bill 5213, and this is the meat of why he basically did it. Quote, asset forfeiture was sold as a needed tool for law enforcement to attack drug kingpins and gang leaders, Representative Irwin said. But too often, law enforcement uses the current asset forfeiture law to take tens of millions of dollars every single year from Michigan residents, mostly from low-level users and small-time dealers. We need to change how asset forfeiture works.
Yeah, get rid of it.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, get rid of it.
Well, by requiring a person to be convicted of a crime before their seized property is subject to forfeiture, we will stop the worst abuses and curtail the insidious incentives that has led some law enforcement to short-circuit due process and the fundamental principle that a person is innocent until proven guilty. They talked to the Michigan State Police, and their opinion was that the primary goal of the asset forfeiture is to, quote, deter and punish drug criminals by taking away their goods, property, and money obtained through illegal activity.
Now I hate it even worse. and let me take this a step further.
Okay.
Okay. Well, where did you learn this drug trade at? Oh, Jimmy up the street. Well, Jimmy's the reason that he committed the crime. Let's go arrest Jimmy.
And take all his stuff.
Yes. You know what? My 5th grade teacher was mean to me, and the only way that I could cope was to sniff the sharpening from the lead pencils. Let's go get his 5th grade teacher. That's where his the whole thing started. Now let's take it a step further. You know that he attended the Main Street Bible Church down the road, and Mrs. Sally was supposed to teach him that drugs were bad. She didn't do a good job in her little Sunday school class with the felt board. Let's go slap her with a fine because she just didn't do her job.
Right.
You know, this whole thing is so absurd. And again, it goes back to what are you willing to spend and give up under this so-called war on drugs?
Well, and here's the other component to it. Police departments right now are looking for ways to generate revenue, and forfeiture is a way to offset the cost of doing business, said Sergeant Dave Schreiner, who runs Canton Township's forfeiture unit.
Okay, at what point in time did police units become revenue generation units for a city?
Well, here's the thing more disturbing. Canton Township?
Yes.
Okay, has a forfeiture unit. This guy's entire job, I guess, is to go around and to acquire other citizens' properties and monies and claim it as it being forfeited in some kind of raid. The Detroit News goes on to say you'll find that departments are doing more forfeitures than they used to because they've got to. They're running out of money, and they got to find it somewhere. This suggests that law enforcement agencies have an incentive to seize property and money to enhance their budgets.
That's wrong. That is fundamentally wrong.
In Michigan,
it's wrong
cash
anywhere.
Or property is valued at more than $50,000, a court proceeding is required for it to be seized. But if the amount is less than $50,000, the seizing can be, quote, streamlined and taken administratively. 89% of the assets that were taken in 2012 were done under this streamlined process. Unbelievable. Just to finish off the story, 2011 law changed how agencies could use the funds. Previously, money was restricted to drug law enforcement, but now the funds can be used for all law enforcement activities and can be provided to nonprofit agencies. They've now started sharing this stuff, Brian, this money with nonprofits. 3% of the money was actually spent that way in the year 2011. Michigan has weak confiscation laws, according to the Institute for Justice, a libertarian law firm that represents people whose money and property have been seized despite them not having committed a crime. The state received a D- for its forfeitures laws back in 2010. Many of the high-profile forfeiture cases have come as a result of federal agencies' actions, and several have occurred right here in Michigan. Last November, the government seized $135,000 from the Chung family's restaurant. Though no criminal charges were filed, the feds went in after them for making bank deposits in cash of $10,000. Banks must notify government agencies when they receive deposits of $10,000 or more.
Whether cash or not cash, if it's just $10,000 or more, they got to report it.
Absolutely. The money was taken. The family could not pay their property taxes or inventory costs for their restaurant, causing them severe financial problems. Eventually, all the charges were dropped, but they still took the $135,000 from them.
Well, you know, the only people that have cash are drug dealers, because under the O-economy, under Obama, and under the Bush economy and the Granholm economy, nobody has that kind of money. The only real money in life is in crime and in drugs, and therefore, if these people have any excess, that's where they have to. That's the real capitalism, when you don't have the government cutting in on your take. This is all justified. I can see now why it's all justified.
Well, this family has retained an attorney in Troy, and he said that Representative Irwin's proposed bill is good, but it should go farther. The bill provides necessary due process before property is forfeited to the state, but it doesn't go far enough. It is an important first step, but much more needs to be done concerning Michigan's asset forfeiture law. He suggested, the lawyer, a law that requires notification to the property owner within a certain amount of time, criminal proceedings within a certain time frame, the release of seized funds or assets if they are required to pay for legal defense, a way for property to be returned, and litigation costs paid if a defendant is not successfully prosecuted by the state. So, bottom line is, we've got a major problem in the state of Michigan. They've listed a few more examples before the break here. I'll get into this last one, get some comments from State Representative Tom McMillan out of Rochester Hills. This week, it was reported by the Associated Press that John Gutowski, the owner of Brome Manor Apartments in Plymouth, has been trying to recover $250,000 from the federal government. Gutowski was charged with knowing about and helping recent immigrants establish legal citizenry by committing marriage fraud. He denied the charges, and they were dropped. But the criminal complaint means the government still holds money they seize from his bank account. Another pending bill in the legislature is House Bill 5081, sponsored by Representative Tom McMillan of Rochester, which has bipartisan support and would require more transparency in forfeiture cases. The Michigan State Police did not respond to a request for comment. Ken Grabowski, legislative director of the Police Officers Association of Michigan, said the group had no comment at this time and will look at these bills very seriously. So, bottom line is, that's where they feel that they know that they are operating beyond their means according to the law, and these bills, I guess, are going to try to address those problems.
There are just fireworks going off in my head with a lot of those statements.
Yeah.
And I think, again, this is one thing where I have some serious problems with. And, you know, Bill Schuette is the top law enforcement guy in the state of Michigan.
Yep, Attorney General.
But his job is to represent a lot of times police agencies for the state of Michigan and not the people. At what point in time do we have to have a type of, and I'm not even saying this, I don't think this can even be a government agency, but I think it might almost have to be maybe a citizen watchdog type of group that can represent citizens against either your local community, the state of Michigan, or the federal government, if that so happens. I mean, don't you think when this guy got his 89 Mustang taken for no reason whatsoever, he's like, you know, what in the world's going on? Where can this guy turn to? Because I can tell you what he's going to do. He first probably went to file a police report. And they're like, well, you know, why are you filing a police report? You're the one that's the criminal here. But I didn't do anything wrong. So then if he was smart, he was like, well, you know, I've got elected officials that are supposed to help me in this situation. I bet you he went there. And he got no help whatsoever because, again, in all honesty, what is the local person? Let's say, you know, I call up Jason in Frank Foster's office, and Jason like, hey, you know, I can try to do something, but, you know, this is a criminal matter. What in the world can I do? I can bring it up, but I can tell you the answer is going to be, hey, I can't do anything.
Right.
So does this guy have to go hire a lawyer now? And how much is that going to cost when he says, yeah, we've got to go against the city? And the lawyer's going to say, hey, I can't do that. I deal with these police officers and prosecutor all the time. I've got to make sure I've got to have a good relationship with them so that, you know, I can do what I need to do in my job.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, okay, I'll try the attorney general in the state. Well, I'm sorry, I can't help you because I've got to represent the other side. And so this guy has absolutely nowhere to turn. There is no place for him to go to have his day really either in court or to fight the system.
And I'd like to know the $900 fine or penalty or whatever it was to get his Mustang back.
Yeah.
Who set that figure? Was that done by the police officers? They had the asset. It wasn't like this was tied up in court or anything. Did a judge do it? Did they have to go and get a number from a judge? I mean, arbitrarily, where do you just grab $900 out of the air to say if you want your Mustang back, that's what you got to pay?
Well, there's really only one number that I can think of that just always comes off the top of my head when I'm in trouble. Call Sam. I don't think that one would help in this case. But there's got to be something like that where that would be, you know, here's where I would call and that number would pop in your head. Hey, stick around. Final segment of Hour 1. When we return, we are your defending fathers. Final segment of this hour, Brian Summerfield, Trucker Randy, your defending fathers. Phone numbers to the program today. 231-347-4382. Our 800 number. 855-548-0504. Remember, this program talks about radical ideas such as freedom, liberty, less regulations, free and open markets, the right to bear arms, limited government, minimal taxation, personal responsibility, balanced budgets, moral absolute states' rights, and a strict interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. You have been warned.
Amen, brother. Just to finish up a few comments during the break on Facebook, I had one of the people said that maybe that $900 figure came from the impound fees. Like maybe they charge like $30 a day for storing his vehicle for it being impounded, and it took a month for him to get through the process, and maybe that was just the fee for holding his vehicle under that asset forfeiture asset they did. Another comment said, unbelievable. Only way that the Michigan law enforcement agencies can increase their revenue is by taking our properties and then charging us fees and fines to get it back. What are we, Russia? Pretty interesting take on it, Brian.
It is. And I broke down on the 39 one time. I actually was going to Buddy's Pizza over after a Tiger game.
Uh-huh.
And I figured I'd go get it in Dearborn and head home. Well, after pizza, I'm heading up going north and broke down.
Southfield Freeway?
Yeah. Yep, right by Joy Road.
Not good.
Called a wrecker. I'm sitting here waiting on the side of the road. This happened to be on, it was in 99 because it was the last game I saw in Tiger Stadium. It was a day game. It was, I think, a Thursday or something like that, heading into the Labor Day weekend. So all of a sudden the wrecker comes out. I see it passing on the other side, coming back from the other side. And all of a sudden I don't see it anymore. It's like I called on the cell phone. It's like, hey, I thought this wrecker was coming to get us, but it didn't come back. Oh, they broke down. So they're sending another wrecker out to get the wrecker. And then we'll send out another wrecker to get you. About 10 minutes later, I see the wrecker go by pulling the wrecker. They got him back in, and then, half hour later, it came back, and they got me.
Right.
Well, that's not too bad of an area right there.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden, I started getting they took us to this place that's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Well, it was over by Livernois. And all of a sudden, this guy calls on the radio, okay, open up the doors. This fenced-in place with canteen wire on the top with Doberman pinchers opens up. They pull in our car, close the door behind us, and I'm like, what prison am I in? And I didn't have a compound fee or anything, but about a week later I had to go back to that and pick up my car that had been fixed. And it was almost like one of those planes, trains, and automobiles story on a weekend. Not a good situation at all. And I can just imagine, this guy having to go to a place like that. Okay, there's my car. How much do I have to spend? In those types of places are generally not a place that you want to get in an argument.
No.
It is almost like a mini prison, complete with canteen wire, extra fencing,
Doberman pinchers.
Yeah. And this guy's sitting there, I just want my 89 Mustang, and I guess if I have to pay my $900, I'll pay my $900 and I'll get out of there.
Right.
Probably the last time, I know what he's going to do. He's going to wait till the DIA has their art auction, and he's going to go score himself a deal on a piece of artwork, and that's how he's going to get even.
When they put everything up for auction.
Yeah, he's going to buy like 20 cents on the dollar. It's like, see, I got my revenge. You're going to get that DJ license next time. You learned what you were supposed to do.
Right. Well, when we get back, one of our famous journalists here in Michigan MLive, Susan Demas, is back at it again.
I know. I've got it pulled up. I saw it. That's where I was going next.
Great minds think alike.
Yep. Hey, that's it for hour number 1. Stick around. We've got 2 more to go. We are your Defending Fathers. Brian Summerfield, Trucker Randy, your Defending Fathers. I had Devin was listening, and he sent me the list of rescinded or repealed rules.
That 1,500 list that we talked about on our show earlier, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, yep. He sent it to me.
Good deal.
Do you know how absurd some of these things are? In 2011, they repealed 271 laws. There was more in 2012. But here's some of the things that they would be considering cleaning up the books. Regulation number 852, Upper Peninsula State Fair. In 2012, there were 84 rules rescinded. What does the UP State Fair have to do with the state of Michigan? Absolutely nothing. It's been privatized for 10 years now.
Right.
Those should have been taken off the books a long time ago.
The year that they privatized it and took it away from the government being involved.
Yes.
Why would you have laws still on the book over that?
Yep. And so some of those are things like this. The one that I found pretty interesting from 2011 that was taken off the books.
Mm-hmm.
You remember when they got rid of the individual pricing law, where you didn't have to price every single item that was for sale
with a price tag?
Yeah, that was one of them. And I know people that said that was a stupid repeal. That law was good because at least I knew what I was paying for something that was labeled. There was no hidden price tricks going on.
Right. How many times you see items in a store now, Brian, that have a price on the shelf where the pricing is attached to the shelf?
Yeah.
But the item isn't what goes in that area?
Yeah.
And you get up to the checkout counter and you said, I thought that can of beans was $1.39, and they ring it up at $1.89. You're going, wait a minute, it said $1.39. Then they got to send a clerk over to check out the pricing on the shelf. I mean, I know it saved them a lot of labor and time in putting those stickers on, but you got to watch it when you go shopping now.
Yep. Here's another one that eliminated 21 different laws on the books. Suggestion Awards Program.
What?
Yes, Suggestion Awards Programs. Took away 32 rules off the books, and that was in the Department of Technology, Management, and Budget. Again, I look at some of these and go, why? Why did you probably need most of these on the books anyways, and how much time was spent by lawmakers putting this stuff on? If you want to know what one of the most expensive books in the state of Michigan is, it's our law book. When you think of how much money was spent for every single one of those to be put on the books, and how much each law cost in the forms of legislative time.
Yep.
That book, I mean, if you want to get Detroit out of debt, just sell that book for what it's worth. We would have more money in the state of Michigan than we'd know what to do with. Here's another one this year. 99 rules and regulations that dealt with the Michigan State Fair. We've not had Michigan State Fair since the days of Granholm. And I think a group that Irvin Magic Johnson is a part of that actually owns that property now.
Right.
And there was 99 rules on the books that all just dealt with the Michigan State Fair. And here's another one that goes right along with that. There's another 12 rules and regulations that dealt with unlawful acts on state fairground properties. They had 12 special rules on the books for nothing more than state fairground properties. Was there something that was unique to state fairs that all of a sudden they had to spend all this time and effort to say, well, we need some special rules that need to be enforced on those properties? Not any other fair properties. You're okay at the Alpena County Fair or the Emmett County Fair or the Otsego County Fair, but if you go to the state fairgrounds, these 12 rules affect just this property. And
right.
What was it? You had a representative that went to the state fair and had something happen, and he was so upset by it, he went back to his desk and said, "I'm writing a new law so that doesn't ever happen again."
Well, see.
Brian Summerfield, Trucker Randy, your defending fathers. Going to turn our attention to fictional writer and sometimes writing novice Susan Demas from MLive.
What did she write now, Brian?
Is that a pretty good synopsis of her writing capabilities and in the way that she uses her wordsmith abilities?
Basically, based on her agenda that she's promoting, basically taking an issue or a story, in my opinion, writing a bunch of lies and half-truths and spinning it basically however she wants without any facts to back it up.
So you're saying that she could write op-ed pieces for the Morning Sun newspaper, and they would probably accept it just like MLive accepts her stuff?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, okay. At least we know how she writes then. That's just kind of like our disclaimer, so that when you read stuff by her, don't really take it as much more than just she wrote a piece, and sometimes it gives us opportunity to see what's out there, as we know where she gets a lot of her information from. Very poorly sourced
again, driven by her agenda.
Yeah. Well, she wants to weigh in on this upcoming Senate run. And Gary Peters, in her opinion, was supposed to just win this U.S. Senate race in a walk. Wasn't even supposed to be a problem for him. You might as well just forget about even putting up a candidate. It's his race. Just here, we're going to give you the keys early so that you can measure the room for carpet and drapes.
Yep.
The Democrat in 2008 surprisingly knocked off U.S. Representative Joel Nolenberg. Peters survived both the 2010 GOP wave and being redistricted out of his seat in 2012. He ran in a neighbor district and toppled incumbent U.S. Representative Hanson Clark in the primary. When U.S. Senator Carl Levin announced this winter that he was hanging it up, Peters declared shortly thereafter, and he became the presumed front-runner, thanks in no small part to his formidable fundraising ability. Now, here is what Mrs. Demas does not understand. He didn't become the presumed front-runner. He became the only candidate on the Democrat side because that's all you're going to get. You are not going to see. Here's how the Democrats run their primary. The phone rings. Hey, candidate, this is Lon Johnson. Congratulations. You're going to be representing us in this race. That's how the primaries are run.
They're not even run, Brian. They pick their candidate, and that's it. Everybody else is told to stay out.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even have a primary where you're challenging the party establishment's machine's hand-picked candidate. They pick them, and everybody else gets told to stay home, sit it out. This is the person we're supporting.
With the exception, I can think of an exception. That did not happen, I don't think, in the 37th Senate race in 2010, the one that you were in with Howard Walker.
Oh, well, they knew that was a lost cause because 63% Republican district. They're not even going to waste their money or their time on that race.
So when the resident from Mackinac Island threw his name in the ring, they were looking, going, oh, well, I guess we don't just have to throw a name in there now. We already have somebody that did it for us.
Yep. Somebody stepped up. We're not going to back him. We're not going to give him any support.
We're not going to return his phone calls, but hey, at least we got a name on there, and at least somebody, when they go straight ticket, at least there's a name that can be attached to it.
There will be a D on the ballot.
Yeah, that's exactly how that worked in the 30 in that race. So, most of the time, though, the way it works is how we told you. There's a few exceptions. And now Lon Johnson is sitting in his office. I know right now, if we could go inside Lon Johnson's office at the Democratic headquarters, he's looking at this 37th race going, well, let's see, what do I do? If Greg McMaster wins, I've got to come up with a candidate. If Wayne Schmidt wins, we don't have to run anybody.
Nope. Wayne will do just fine.
So in essence, there is kind of like already the election in the primary, because you got a Republican running and you have a Democrat running.
Right. In the Republican primary.
But I digress. Let's get back to
let's get back to what Susan has to say.
So because of his fundraising ability, that was a big plus for the D's. Peters may not set the world afire with an outside personality. He's a former banking executive. Now, why would Miss Demas take a nasty personal swipe at banking executives? Is she saying that they do not have any personality at all?
she's not enamored with Peter's personality. Doesn't think he's maybe outgoing enough.
But he does appear to be in the mold of Carl Levin. Reasoned, thoughtful, and has a firm grasp on the issues. And you know what I think is probably going to happen if he wins? You know, he does wear glasses, and you would expect that from a over 40-year-old banking executive.
He's got to start pushing him down on his nose.
He's got to get different glasses. I bet you if they wore the same prescription, Carl Levin would even let him test out those glasses to wear down on his nose. Many Michiganders don't agree with the U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee chair on all issues, but Levin won his last election with 63% of the vote because people trust and respect him. And if you want to know something about two factors that have aided in the power of him being in that Senate seat for so long, two factors: the power of incumbency and the stronghold that the Democrats have had on the state in state elections because of Wayne and Genesee counties.
Yep.
Those two factors alone is what has led to his long run in the U.S. Senate. So Terry Lynn Land wasn't supposed to be a challenge for Peters. The Republican faced little competition in her 2002 and 2006 for her Secretary of State races. Land then launched a lackluster, short-lived 2010 gubernatorial campaign. That's not fully true. Do you know?
I think she had an exploratory committee.
Do you know what really happened in that? And it's funny because when I saw it in the newspaper, I believe it was in the Detroit News back a couple years ago. I actually had it saved on my hard drive. It was one of the articles that I saved. Mm-hmm. And the reason why her campaign or exploratory was so short was because Bobby Shostak didn't want her to run for the race. He had already threw his support for somebody else in that process, and it's just like, okay, if I don't even have support from the chair of the party, why am I even going to do this?
Right.
And I saved that clip. I came across it a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that. That's the reason why. Afterwards, she teamed up with another candidate, Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard, who then ended up placing 4th out of 5. Why is that relevant to this story, Miss Demas? Aren't you talking about Terry Lynn Land?
It's not.
Are you trying to say because she had a friend that she supported that that is the reason why, that's going to translate into this candidacy for her Senate run?
Has nothing to do with it.
None whatsoever. But in the years since, Land has learned a thing or two and kept her favorability rating high. In 2012, she quietly gauged the Tea Party's anger at establishment Republicans and jumped into the GOP National Committeewoman race, and she beat incumbent Holly Hughes. And she served as former U.S. Representative Pete Hoekstra's biggest advocate during the U.S. Senate race that year. Although he lost badly, Land upped her profile considerably. Now, here's where she actually gets into reporting on the story, because, again, she just threw a bunch of fluff in there that has nothing to do with the Senate race.
Her spin based on her agenda.
Yeah, nothing at all. When she decided this year to go for Levin's seat, she scared away the GOP competition with her ability to pour millions of her own money into the race. She's enlisted the help of consultant John Yob, who's made a career of harnessing the conservatives' wing's anger. Still, many Republicans remain unenthusiastic. Now, so far what I've gotten out of this story, she has spent almost a whole page in her only analysis is that, well, Gary Peters, he's running, and he could have walked away with this thing, and they really like him down there because he's got the ability to raise a bunch of money. But Terry Lynn Land, she's been around a long time, and she basically got everybody else out of the race because she threw a bunch of her own money at the campaign.
See, the difference there, Brian?
Yes.
Peters can raise money, ask people for checks from the Democrat Party and get them. Terry's earned it in her business and was able to put it into her own campaign herself. That's the difference.
So is now all of a sudden later on that she's going to complain that she can run without the ability of having money from the Koch brothers?
She is independent and will be obligated to no one.
That's not a bad thing for a politician, is it?
I like it a lot.
But Peters has given Land a boost with flip-flopping on Obamacare. He voted for the bill in 2009, but then voted for a GOP bill this year President Obama said would gut it. He looks like he doesn't stand for anything, and there's concern how Peters will be in debates with Land, leading some to wonder if Democrat National Committee woman Debbie Dingell would have fared better. Uh-oh.
Do we hear a riff in the Democratic House?
And I said long ago that Mark Schauer is the worst candidate the Democrats have run for a state office, well, since Virg Boniro. Mm-hmm. And I'm surprised that he's not got that phone call yet from Lon Johnson that says, you know what, Mark, we really like you. You've done a wonderful job for the party. But I'm thinking of this other person of running in your place. It's really not you, it's me. But we really need to break off this relationship, and here's going to be our new candidate. So if you could, just have a press release. Matter of fact, I prepared one for you. Here, just read this.
I'll email it to you. You can polish it.
And it goes something like this. Due to family obligations that were unforeseen when I ran for this race, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to suspend my campaign to deal with these personal matters. And that's what the personal matter was. It was that phone call with Lon Johnson.
Right.
And again, you talk about Snyder just sitting back going, is it really going to be this easy again? I can pretty much say and do whatever I want to, and for the most part, he has.
Yep.
But getting back to this race, Land has also shunned the mistakes of two other Tea Party U.S. Senate candidates Jobs advised in 2010. Sharon Angle and Christine O'Donnell, both of them overshadowed O'Donnell talking about dabbling in witchcraft, and Angle saying pregnancy results from the rape and incest is God's plan. Land, on the other hand, has astoundingly avoided controversy. She won't talk about National Committee man Dave Agema or the legislature passing the rape insurance measure barring abortion as standard coverage. I wish we could maybe we'll spend the next segment, because we had protesters down in Lansing last weekend dealing with that one matter. So is Sharon Angle or is Susan Demas saying that Land is doing a masterful job of running her campaign of kind of just staying on the issues and not going off on bunny trails? I almost think this is almost like a backhanded endorsement for Miss Demas. What could be happening here? We're your defending fathers. Final segment of hour number 2. Brian Summerfield, Trucker Randy, your defending fathers. And I've got enough time just to finish up this Susan Demas story. Again, as I read through her work more and more, I just realize, what in the world is MLive thinking of? She really should be in the arts and entertainment section of their website.
No, she should actually be reduced to just writing opinion editorials. She's not a news reporter. She is not based in fact. She, her convoluted thinking twists the facts around. She does not report the news. This MLive has turned into nothing more than a bunch of agenda-driven opinion people. But they try to pass it off as being news. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing.
Well, what I can't believe is they've even taken her off of their list of MLive political columnists. So she's not even in that list anymore. Yet she likes to jump in on these things. And again, she's almost like the Rachel Maddow of Michigan, as far as just, here's the talking points that I'm going to continue to repeat often enough that maybe after a while the left will just use them as their thought process.
Well, she's definitely a Rachel Maddow wannabe. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you're dead on in that analysis.
And when you take a look at this, when you go back, and again, this is one of those things that the Michigan legislature voted on last week that had to do with this not having taxpayers pay for abortion. Now, at what point in time did not having taxpayers pay for abortion, where did they even get calling this, well, it's just rape insurance is what it is?
Again, their agenda.
Yeah, how can you twist words like that and turn it into, okay, here's what we think is going to be the mandated talking point that will turn the public to us, because who would ever stand up and not pay for something if it's revolving around rape?
Well, to finish the story off before the break, and another just quick comment, I posted the link to this story from Susan on MLive, and in the story that you're looking at, Brian, it has Terry Lynn Land's picture in it.
Yes.
When I posted the link on Facebook, guess whose picture showed up? Gary Peters.
Really?
I had to literally go into her story on MLive, save Terry's picture, and upload it into our link on our Facebook page, Your Defending Fathers. Amazing.
Yes.
Anyway, finish off your thoughts.
Yep, and she goes on and says that it's not surprising polls now show that the race is a dead heat, with Republicans zeroed in on the seat as their best pickup for 2014.
Another lie.
Yeah.
Susan, you got to stop lying, girl. The Democrat polling company did the poll, and Terry was up. Actually, 2 points in their Democrat poll, and when you factor in the fact that they are a Democrat polling company, it's actually probably more like a 6 to 8 point lead. It's not too close to call. It's not even close. Terry is kicking Peter's butt this early in the campaign season.
Yep.
It's going to trigger that phone call, maybe that you were talking about for Mark Schauer against Snyder. It may trigger a call to Peters from Lon Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we'll let you finish the story.
Yeah, it'll go something like this. Well, Carl decides that he really likes D.C., and we told him we'd give him a couple extra weeks vacation so he doesn't have to put up with the heat in the summertime, and we'll send him out to someplace cooler, maybe out along the coast in California. So he's decided he's going to run again.
Yeah.
Well, she says it's clear Land's plan is to stay silent and pile up cash as long as possible. It's up to Peters to define himself and what he believes in. If he doesn't, Peters could end up on the losing end of a big upset in Michigan politics. I agree. It would be considered an upset with the Republican winning just because of the history of Senate elections in Michigan.
100 years, Brian, since it had as an open seat.
Mm-hmm.
And the last Republican elected the U.S. Senate, Spence Abraham, 94.
Yep. And he did put his foot in his mouth. That was not a good way for him to use his seat. Hey, that is it for this hour. One more hour to go. Stick around. We are your Defending Fathers. Start of hour number 3. Well, that begins right now. Brian Summerfield, Trucker Randy, your Defending Fathers. There is a treasure trove of information today regarding the Obamacare.
The Affordable Care Act.
Oh, that's right. We can't allude to it as Obamacare anymore because it sounds better as the Affordable Care Act.
Well, that's the name of the law. And that's what the President and the First Lady has requested that we start referring it to.
Well, I thought he kind of liked the fact that it was called Obamacare. I'm grown kind of fond of it.
Didn't Mitt Romney call it Obamacare and apologized in the debate to Obama? And he said, no, that's okay. You can call it Obamacare. I kind of like it.
Yep, that's what we just alluded to on that. And we're going to hit this from a couple different angles because we're starting to see some cracks in it. And do you know how many changes there have already been made to this law, L-A-W, law, without congressional approval?
Just by the President saying it at a press conference?
Yes, by him mandating executive law through press conference.
Yep, I'm going to hold a press conference and going to change affordable health care.
Yep. Do you know how many times that's happened?
How many?
14.
14 different things he's already changed in the law?
Yeah. And
didn't get Congress's approval on?
No. Nope.
Well, what is he, a dictator?
Now, that's a racist comment.
Nah, has nothing to do with the color of his skin. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that he's half black and half white. That's not true.
That's true.
So, what 14 did they have?
Well, you want to go into that first? I'll get to that. There's actually, this is going to be Your Defending Fathers triple spin on this one.
Three for one.
We're going to take three stories and going to weave them all together. And three strands are stronger than one strand, so this is going to be a pretty strong rope.
Hey,
here.
I might even have a homer here. I got one with Tim Skubik's got a little spin on this too.
Really? Tim?
Oh yeah, we might
today?
go for 4 for 1.
Wow!
Buddy.
And we'll let Tim be the cleanup hitter. It'll be the weakest lineup in the history of radio.
Okay, go for that single.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, we got our cleanup hitter hitting singles. Well, the first crack in the individual mandate might be happening right now. This is from the Weekly Standard blogger Ezra Klein calls the sudden Obamacare rule change the first crack. This puts it in the individual mandate is where this is taking place. And the question is whether it's the last. If Democrat members of Congress see this as solving their political problem, with peoples whose plans have been canceled, it could help them stand against Republican efforts to delay the individual mandate. And we've talked about that they have wanted to delay this another year. Doesn't matter that it's the law, it's just like we're just going to delay it.
Well, because the rollout was so bad, they want to push it past the November 2014 election.
And if that's the case, now we are paying 5 years for this law before really the first benefit is even paid for it in this 10-year plan. Pay for it for 10, we only pay for 5. We'd be thrown in jail again if we tried to do something
like a Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme to me.
Yes, it does. But if congressional Democrats use this ruling as an excuse to delay the otherwise defang the individual mandate for anyone who doesn't want to pay for insurance under Obamacare, then it'll be a very big problem for the new law. And here's how the basic changes happen on this rule change. One, the individual mandate includes a hardship exemption. People who qualify can either ignore the individual mandate altogether or purchase a cheap, bare-bones, catastrophic insurance plan that's typically only available to people under the age of 30 years old.
Yeah, but that doesn't meet Obamacare standards, Brian.
But again, if that becomes a rule change on this, think about how this could totally change the way that they were going to enforce you, the individual, into this plan that you don't want. This is a critical point. We're going to get into it more when we come back. We are your Defending Fathers. Brian Summerfield, Trucker Randy, your Defending Fathers, and looking at maybe some of the first cracks in the individual mandate, and had an interesting conversation during the break. And somebody very well educated and was helping a family member sign up for the Affordable Care Act online. Mm-hmm. 2 hours.
2 hours to get through the application?
That's how long it took them to go through and sign up for the Affordable Care Act. They said,
and how much of their private information, Social Security, income, and stuff did they have to put in there?
Well, everything. It's like doing a tax return.
Unbelievable.
And you wonder, how many people are really going to be able to navigate through that to that extent. And how much is it going to cost them to do that? And I go back again, shouldn't you have to be licensed to do that? If you put it under the umbrella of everything else that the government tells us they have to do, I cannot believe they are allowing just anybody to put this information in.
Right.
You have to be licensed for taxes, and you would think that the tax return, it says, here's how long it's going to take you to complete these forms. Tax return, you shouldn't have to pay for somebody to do your taxes unless it's either for service, it's convenience, you don't want to mess with it. And let's face it, there are people that pay to have their houses clean, have their car washed, have their dog walked. There's certain things that are just truly a service. Changing your oil. How come the tax code has become so complicated that they have to require people to be licensed in order to prepare taxes?
Yep. We'll get back to the story
here.
I want to hear the next one.
And I'll recap the two things as far as basic rule changes that could be the first cracks, and it's regarding the individual mandate. Individual mandate includes a hardship exemption now that people who qualify can either ignore the individual mandate altogether or purchase a cheap, bare-bones, catastrophic insurance plan that typically is only available to people under the age of 30. Now, if there's a hardship exemption or you can just ignore the mandate altogether, why do you need 16,000 IRS agents on the payroll to enforce the mandate?
Intimidate, enforce, and collect.
Number 2. According to HHS, the exemption covers people who experienced financial or domestic circumstances, including an unexpected natural or human-caused event, such that he or she had significant unexpected increase in essential expenses that prevented him or her from obtaining coverage under a qualified health plan. Now, you talk about open to interpretation? Unexpected natural or human-caused event. So, I couldn't pay for it. I lost my job. I couldn't pay for it. Congress didn't extend the unemployment insurance. I couldn't afford it because of Obamacare, my employer can't employ me for more than 30 hours, so I have just a part-time job.
Or when they went online to healthcare.gov, Brian, and put in the information there, or maybe was a little confused during that 2-hour process. Maybe they picked up the phone and called one of those navigators to advise them.
Yeah.
And they told them to lower their income on a line so that they would qualify for a subsidy. Then when they filed their tax return and they don't qualify for the subsidy, and the IRS comes after them for more money because now their payments are going to go up and they can't afford it. You don't have to pay for it now because that's an unexpected human-caused event by the navigator. Exactly. They were mistaken. It's not your fault. Either natural or human-caused event. Oh, here's one. The police broke into my house, busted my door in like a SWAT team, killed my dog, and I was innocent, but I was so disturbed by that human-caused event that I'm not going to pay for it now. I mean, we can't work. Yeah. You talk about opening up something that is up for interpretation that you could almost, my favorite team lost in the World Series. I was so upset over it. That's a human-caused event. I'm just not going to sign up now. Number 3. Today, the administration agreed with a group of senators led by Mark Wagner of Virginia, who argued that having your insurance plan canceled counted as an unexpected natural or human-caused event. For these people, in other words, Obamacare itself is the hardship. You can read HHS Secretary Kathleen Sebelius' full letter in this article, as well as HHS's formal guidance is there as well. And we'll post this article on our Your Defending Fathers Facebook page and yourdefendingfathers.us. We'll have it both places. And again, one of my predictions for the new year is Kathleen Sebelius will be promoted sometime in 2014. Don't know when, but she is going to get a promotion. So those are the 3 things that the Weekly Standard is saying is going to start putting the cracks in Obamacare. Now, I'm surprised Congress has not worked this angle on it, because you would think
this is the part that just really, really, really smacks you in the face. If you're a congressman, this is from the National Review Online. Yesterday, the Obama administration suddenly moved to allow hundreds of thousands of people who have lost their insurance due to Obamacare to sign up for bare-bones catastrophic plans. It's at least the 14th unilateral change to Obamacare that's been made without consulting Congress.
Unbelievable.
Yes. So they're going to use this clause of natural or unnatural human event to allow people to get around this. And here it is in action. It shows that the Obamacare insurance products aren't selling. So at the last minute, the administration is holding a fire sale on its failed loss. Now, I can just imagine. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to be going through, and you're going to be on Overstock.com or on Amazon looking for discounted or cheap insurance plans. And you're going to all of a sudden see this popped up. Obamacare. Buy now. It's 70% off. Free shipping. There's got to be some sort of promotion like that. And then the next time you're on your social media site, popping up on the box on the right, Obamacare, 70% off. Now 75% off, an extra 5% off today. That is the way this Obamacare is almost being treated.
Yep.
This is crazy. Of course, like every other exemption from Obamacare, the latest fix is supposed to last only a year, raising the prospect that people will be kicked off their catastrophic coverage as soon as the 2014 election is safely in the political rearview mirror. So is this being done again to create or to cure a real problem that government had no business to be in the first place? Or is the Obama administration trying to say, you know what, we're trying to fix a political problem? And you go back to the original premise of this whole Obamacare law, Affordable Care Act. You know,
in name only, Brian.
Insurance is just getting too expensive. We're going to pass this law, the Obamacare law. I like the way it's named, and it's going to save every family $2,500. That's $2,500 real dollars in your pocket every year. Well, it's going in the wrong direction. Now, not only did you get rid of your good plan that you liked, your doctor that you wanted to keep, it's costing you more and you're getting less. And when you look at this in real terms, as a real consumer, you're looking for two things. Is my perceived cost on this, am I seeing more value for the perceived cost or less cost? If I am perceiving the value to be greater than what I'm paying for, I'm a happy consumer. I'm going to buy it all day long.
Yep.
But here's the real world problem for Obamacare. The perceived value is not even coming close to what the perceived cost is, especially when you look inside of what you are used to paying and what you are used to getting, or worse yet, what you've lost.
It doesn't matter what the consumers perceive the value as in relationship to the cost, Brian. It's the law of the land. You have to do it, or you're going to face a fine being enforced by the IRS. They don't care whether or not market principles apply. They don't care whether people are going to sit down and say, here's the perceived value I'm seeing this as. Yeah, this looks like a good deal. I'm going to go ahead and sign up for it and pay for it. They don't care. They passed a law. It was made constitutional by John Roberts, ruling that it was a tax and that he could do it. And these Republicans funded it. When they raised the debt ceiling and agreed to fund Obamacare in it, instead of defunding it like they should have, they repealed it. Sure, that was a good thing. Didn't have a snowball chance getting repealed in the Senate. But let's just go ahead and do what's politically the right thing to do so the media won't blame us. Let's go ahead and fund this thing and let this disaster unfold so that we might be able to win elections on it being so bad in 2014.
Wayne Schmidt.
Yeah.
Randy Richardville.
Mm-hmm. Governor Snyder.
Governor Snyder.
Well, facts are the facts. The truth is the truth.
Tom Casperson.
Yep.
Should we just go down the whole list?
Well,
and again, this is what our Republicans in Michigan thought was, well, this is the best we're able to do. We're going to make sure that safeguards are in place so we don't get hurt. But we're going to take the free money from Obama money. Wait till when we get back from the break. I'm going to tell you what the polling is saying right now on this issue. And we're going to hit it from two more angles. We're going to make our first Your Defending Fathers home run as opposed to a twin spin. Stick around. Final segment of today's program of Your Defending Fathers. Randy, why don't you give us the Tim Skubic, fourth hitter in the lineup? He better not bunt. I'll be upset if that happens.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm gonna picture it as being a Texas leaguer seeing eye blooper of a single, but he very loosely is starting to already make excuses for the Democrats here in Michigan for the upcoming 2014 elections.
Mm-hmm.
And he's already pointing fingers at the Michigan Republican Party as well as conservative grassroots groups like the Americans for Prosperity. You know the ad that they're running on our station about Wayne Schmidt
mm-hmm.
and his yes man basically to Obamacare?
No, I don't think I know about that.
Well, according to Tim Skubic, politics in Michigan, now comes the Affordable Care Act that was passed by Congress. The Michigan Republican Party hoping to actually pull a Gingrich on the Democrats by linking state lawmakers in Lansing to the actions of those in Washington. Republican consultant Steve Linder argues Democrats on all levels applauded this great health care reform, which is nothing more than socialism. Never mind that the state legislative Democrats didn't vote for the Affordable Care Act. Yes, though, they did approve Medicaid expansion that was part of it. But those are two different things, according to Tim Skubic. And also, Brian, wasn't it all of the Democrats in the House and all the Democrats in the Senate with a few weak Republicans that actually expanded Medicaid?
I recall that being what happened.
Yeah, and somebody calling a state senator a weak Republican.
Yeah, I recall visions of that this year. Yes.
Yeah. Well, listen to this. That won't bother Mr. Linder and his friends and other folks like Americans for Prosperity, as they are unlikely to include this point in their commercials, while morphing a picture of Democrat state lawmakers and, quote unquote, a few weak Republicans with a photo of President Obama. They may even actually go out and put out ads claiming that these lawmakers in Lansing voted for Obamacare. Well, didn't they when they expanded Medicaid?
Hold on, I think I hear the answer.
Implemented Obamacare?
I hear the answer for you. Yes.
Yes. Well, guess what? Once more, according to Tim Skubic, the dirty game of politics is going to be acting on the unsuspecting and sometimes gullible citizenry who will take this hook, line, and sinker and blame it all on these folks in Lansing who didn't vote for it. Well, just like the Democrats did it to Newt Gingrich back in 2012 regarding the Social Security takeover, turnaround is fair play, and ignorance in politics is bliss. So That's the fourth tie-in to Obamacare and how it actually is going to start affecting Michigan politics and the elections coming up in 2014.
Make sure you put that link on our Facebook page and our website, Your Defending Fathers on Facebook, yourdefendingfathers.us. It will be on both of those. And I'm going to leave you with a happy story with the final news of the day. For the first time since 1959 revolution, Cubans will have the right to buy new and used vehicles from the state without government permission. Can you believe new vehicles are now going to be driven by the average citizen around the streets of Havana soon?
Man, will that be a culture shock to them or what?
I know. I can't even imagine seeing pictures of modern-day Havana now without seeing all those 1957 Chevys that look like they went through Arizona for 30 years straight without being in a garage.
Yep.
So pretty beat up late 50s Chevys and Fords going around down there. Finally, these cars with over 500,000 miles on them are going to be replaced.
I wonder if they'll get Priuses or Chevy Volts.
Well, it depends on if they get Jennifer Granholm as their new transportation minister. Hey, that's it for us. We are your Defending Fathers.
This is the Patriot Voice Radio Network.